Well, thank you so much, Brittany. And thank you all, especially at ATTA, for doing what you're doing. We often say that's a spectrum, and just getting an opportunity to hear about all the amazing work that you're continuing to do is truly, truly inspiring. We need more champions like your team in our communities. For everyone joining us, my name is Dr. Carrie Magro. I'm a professional speaker, author, and autism self advocate. I was diagnosed with autism when I was about 4 years old in 1992. And after years of therapy, especially occupational, physical, and speech, I was able to overcome many of my obstacles to today being one of the first openly autistic professionally certified public speakers in the United States. It's given me the opportunity to travel the globe and to talk about a wide range of topics in our community. Specifically, this one is a hot topic in our community about financial support and how do we go about helping our autistic loved ones across the lifespan. So we'll talk a little bit about that in today's presentation. For those who are joining us, feel free to write in the chat box and tell us where you're tuning in from today, and also what your current relationship is to the autism community. I would love to hear all of your perspectives because we often get parents, educators, and really just people who want to learn more about the autism community. But to get us started, for today's presentation, I want to share a quick video with all of you to give you a little glimpse into my journey from non-speaking autism to today being a professional speaker. I hope you enjoy this video.
April is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, and all this week we're taking a closer look at the developmental disorder.
And tonight we introduce you to Carrie Magro. As Teresa Priolo shows us, this best-selling author, speaker, and role model is not letting autism define him.
This question of what happens to children with autism when they become adults with autism is what's happening today.
Jersey City native Carrie Magro has a lot to say, and he is wasting no time letting his thoughts be heard. Something that seemed impossible when Carrie was just a toddler. This cherubic baby, full of innocence and adventure, was enjoying life like any other child his age, except he couldn't verbalize it. Carrie was nonverbal until the age of 2.5.
Some of my earliest memories were like, Mom and Dad, I really wish I could talk for you because I know you're pushing me so hard to try to speak, and I really wish I could do that for you. I wish I could have this conversation with you. I wish I didn't have to point when I had to go to the bathroom or point to when I was hungry. So I think those were my earliest memories as early as 4.
Today, Carrie is CEO and founder of KFM, Making a Difference, a nonprofit corporation focused on disability advocacy and housing. Once Carrie began talking, well, he didn't stop. He is currently traveling the world sharing his story.
My parents decided to get me focused on rigorous occupational, physical, and speech therapy, which I did for almost 15 years after I was diagnosed.
In May of 2019, Carrie received his doctorate in educational technology leadership from New Jersey City University to become Dr. Carrie Magro. Today, he's showing the world autism is not his disability, but rather it's given him an ability to connect with people far and wide.
I know there's so many people, even to this day, who have unconscious biases around autism and disability, and sometimes don't think of these individuals as enough. And what I can tell them as that scared little boy who didn't know what the future had in store for them is my typical thing I like to say is that autism hasn't defined my life. I've defined autism. And I can only hope that every single individual who may be watching this can define their lives and their journeys, regardless if they have autism, every single day for the rest of their lives. It wasn't always easy, but now I can say today that I'm here.
And one more thing, for a guy who has accomplished many of his professional goals before the age of 35, Carrie has just one more big box to check off the list.
I'm a hopeless romantic. I want to fall in love. I want to raise a family.
So that's a little bit about my journey. So I was diagnosed at a time when the numbers of autism were about 1 in every 1,000 being diagnosed. And today in our society, it's about 1 in 36 in the United States. So it means that we need to have larger conversations, and I apologize for my camera acting a little wonky. Uh, you gotta love technology, especially when it works. This is the first time this is actually happening to me. But it gave me the opportunity to work in a wide range of projects. In addition, I'm just going to turn my camera off just for the time being, just until I can figure that out during our next video. But it gave me the opportunity to travel the globe and work with so many incredible K through 12 schools, in addition to nonprofit organizations, big businesses as well, and get the opportunity to highlight across the spectrum. This topic is really important to me because my parents got me involved with a financial investor at a very early age, especially when it came to special needs financial planning. They realized that their non-speaking child was told a lot of things about what he wouldn't be able to do in his life. And my parents realized the importance of starting a special needs financial trust and going about saving for my future during my adolescence. It was truly, truly of utmost importance. So today I will share with you over 30 key resources that you can utilize, regardless if you're an educator. As I see, we have a few educators in the room today, a social worker, a therapist, or simply just somebody who wants to learn a little bit more about this community and how to go about providing that financial planning throughout their entire life. Because as we know, autism does not age out at the age of 21. So first off, who likes free stuff? I know I do. At the end of today's presentation, there will be a little QR code. Feel free to scan that with your cell phone, and we will make sure that you get a free list of autism resources. As part of that resource list, there will be several mentions of free services you can use today to go about the process of financial planning, while also giving you a little bit bigger of a snapshot of Social Security income, in addition to other financial plans on how to help support those in the autism community. We'll also have about 15 minutes at the end for question and answer. So feel free, as we're going along, to write your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to as many of those questions at the end of today's presentation. So just to give you a little snapshot, my diagnosis was at a time when a lot of people still had that stereotypical look of autism as Rain Man, assuming that everybody with autism was great at math, that had photogenic memory, and when you turn 21, you could take Tom Cruise to Las Vegas with you and count cards and win $88,000 on a blackjack table. It's like the movie Rain Man. Now, today, we know that if you met one autistic person, you met just that one autistic person. So my earliest challenges included, but we're not limited to, speech delay, expressive and receptive language disorder, severe sensory integration dysfunction, auditory processing challenges, twirling, in addition to a dual diagnosis of dysgraphia, which is a handwriting disorder due to some of my earliest fine motor challenges. Luckily, though, as the Fox 5 interview mentioned, I received years of occupational physical speech, music, and theater therapy to help me overcome many of my obstacles growing up. In addition to that, I also had limited pretend play, in addition to emotional issues throughout my adolescence due to limited speech. I was also an only child, so I had a lot of challenges with peer-to-peer communication growing up. So in addition, one of the biggest challenges, though, was sensory processing. And I see this across the board for so many in our community. Autism is defined as a social and communication disorder, but I feel like a lot of the times, especially in our school systems and in our workplaces, we're not doing enough to provide a sensory friendly environment for everyone. It doesn't only make sense for those who are autistic, but it also just makes sense for everyone, because when we are in a sensory friendly environment, we're more likely to follow through, whether it's our academics or our work tasks in a workplace. So growing up, I had challenges with things like hypersensitivity with loud noises. That's why music therapy was so incredibly impactful. Even though loud noises bothered me, there was always something soothing about music, which became a huge part of what helped me growing up on the autism spectrum. I also didn't want to be touched or hugged. There's still a big misconception in our autism community that people with autism lack empathy, but some of the autistic kids that I work with are some of the most empathetic people I've ever met in my life. I also had a wide range of food aversions. I just came out with a book on World Autism Awareness Day of this year called Supporting Your Autism Journey, where I talk and do a deep dive into food related challenges that are impacting our community, realizing that it's one of the most frequently asked questions I receive in the autism community today. I receive about 100, 150 emails. This is not a joke, from parents, educators, and workplace professionals each month to my email. And the number three most frequently asked question I receive is on food aversions because of the impact that has on many in our autism community, from those who have not only underlying food allergies, gastrointestinal issues, but also challenges with textures. That was one of the hardest challenges with sensory processing. I would always gravitate to things like chicken nuggets just because there was always a consistency when it came to that texture. And as many parents who are probably joining us today know, that can be a little jarring, especially in terms of actual nutrition, to be focused on that routine. I would only ask for bologna sandwiches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, for example, until I was 8 years old. I also had an in-house occupational therapist come in on weekends, in addition to the 15 hours a week I was receiving of occupational, physical, and speech therapy growing up on the autism spectrum. And one of the saving graces was being able to find the triggers of why I was dealing with some of my sensory challenges and being able to find ways of self-regulating. One of the greatest ways was having a sensory brush, which I could bring around with me from classroom to classroom, so I could come back to a place of normalcy, using a sensory brush for 5 minutes at a time to come to a place of normalcy in my development. So because of being able to overcome many of my challenges, I now today have had the opportunity to write 5 books based on not only my journey growing up with autism, but also what I've learned as an expert in the field. I'm writing a book in 2015 called Defining Autism from the Heart, about poems and essays when I was just starting off during my journey of telling people for the first time about my autism diagnosis. Disclosure is often a very sensitive and interesting topic within our community because not everybody who's on the autism spectrum discloses that they're on the autism spectrum. So I wrote this book, assumed it would be a great Christmas gift for some of my peer mentees, but within 3 days, it became an Amazon bestseller for special need parenting. And they continue to give us a platform to discuss autism within our communities. Writing a book a year later about autism and falling in love, based on my perspective of over 12 years of trying to go about romantic relationships and what I learned growing up as somebody with autism trying to date in this society today. Years later, writing a children's book called I Will Light Up Blue, that is a children's book focused on twins who are on the autism spectrum who learn about an initiative that changes their lives forever. During April 2nd, which has been internationally recognized from the United Nations as World Autism Awareness Day, an initiative that is hosted by many organizations. It's called the Light Up Blue campaign, where people wear blue and light their houses up blue to start a conversation about autism. And then years later, Autistics on Autism, I started a nonprofit organization which provides scholarships for autistic students to pursue a post-secondary education. And we took 100 of our scholarship applicants, had them write an essay about what helped them growing up throughout their adolescence to provide a resource for families who just want to learn a little bit more about the autism community. I took my two key labors of love to really find a path, though, in my career. I wanted to grow up to be the next Larry Bird. And growing up with autism, I always had extreme key interests. I could tell you all 30 NBA teams and every single player on one of those teams. So I got a degree in sport management at Seton Hall University, where I'm based in New Jersey, before changing career paths to focus on the disability community as a speaker. My second key interest, which kind of led to this opportunity, was theater. I grew up wanting to be the sixth member of the Backstreet Boys. Realized right away I couldn't sing a lick for the life of me. So I got involved with theater as a way of not only helping me build on my communication skills, but also to understand the perspectives of others. And now today, as a 13-year seasoned professional speaker, I've also gotten the opportunity to work for the past 14 years as an autism entertainment consultant for film and television, working on films like Joyful Noise, Jane Wants a Boyfriend, HBO's Mrs. Fletcher, and also the most recent season of Netflix Emmy Award-winning series Love on the Spectrum US. I'm so excited to say we had our second season, which came out on January 18th. And for those who might be new to this show, I want to share a quick clip with all of you so you could get a little sense of what we're trying to do to normalize autism in our society today.
What do you think love is?
Love is a dagger, a pretty thing that enchants, but also hurts.
Welcome back.
Yes, I am back.
What do you think? Should we get started?
Let's get started.
Oh, Kihyun, yeah, how's this smile? That's pretty good. Why do you want to find love?
I have so much love to give. When there's love, there is a right match. It feels like the slipper fits.
I really would like to have someone special with whom I can share the best moments of my life.
Finding love can be hard for anyone.
It's finally my turn, my turn.
To second chances at finding love.
And for some people, it can feel like an impossible dream.
My heart still goes with him.
Just look for that fish in your pond.
Oh, yes.
This series follows people on the autism spectrum
What a grip you got.
So magnanimous, marvelous.
as they navigate the confusing world of relationships
This is very interesting.
and dating.
Are you a little nervous? He says yes. I'm going on a date.
So I'm so excited to say that when Love on the Spectrum actually started in Australia, they had 2 seasons in Australia before moving to the US. And we had the role of getting the opportunity to talk to Love on the Spectrum when they were in Australia about helping them come to the United States, realizing that we have so many rich perspectives in the autism community in America that we want to see them highlighted on the big screen. So getting the opportunity to not only work with the director on the past 2 seasons of the US version of Love on the Spectrum, but I'm so excited to say we've just been renewed for season 3 and we'll start production next month. So get excited about that. In addition, we've also seen more and more companies wanting to go about pursuing autism-related projects, realizing that we continue to see that autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in our country. We had the opportunity to receive a credit in an upcoming film starring Robert De Niro, who ironically enough has a son who's on the autism spectrum called Ezra, which focuses on the relationship of a father and son who are navigating, doing a cross-country tour to actually pursue the father a comedic career. So this is a quick clip of that movie that you can see on May 31st.
My man Ezra flying without a net so that he could order himself a
Ice cream, please.
The doctor first told me my son was autistic. Could have saved us both a lot of time if we just said the truth. Autistic kids don't give up. They want me to put him in a special needs school. Jenna knows I'm broke. She knows you're still not over her. The man your age shouldn't be living with his father.
He led 20 kids onto Washington Street.
Your son has been a danger to himself.
He's not dangerous. He's a challenge. Nobody wants to do the work.
Now I see where the dangerous behavior comes from.
You want to do something for your son? You get yourself to LA. Jimmy Kimmel wants to book you.
What?
They're not going to fly you. Is that going to be a problem?
No.
Hey,
What did you do? Ezra, get in the car. I need to get him away from here.
time to take to the car.
Well, then get him a side pop.
All I ever wanted was just to protect our boy.
Well, I'm protecting him now.
Give your Uncle Nicky a hug, huh? Come here.
Hey, wait,
You know, the word autism comes from the Greek, in your own world. I don't want him in his own world. I want him in this world. It is the one thing that I can't get wrong.
Just look him in the eye. Looking a horse in the eye, it's like sharing your soul.
Where the hell are you? Taking a little time off with it. It's not a good time to take off, Max. You're fighting for something. You might have to suffer consequences, but it's worth it because you did it. Because you love your kid.
Dad's job is to take his son down the field. If he gets tackled, all that dad wants is for that kid to pick up the ball and to take it the rest of the way.
So one of the cool things about this project is that they actually auditioned a autistic actor to play the leading autistic character in this film. In addition to that, the writer of that movie has an autistic son, and I got the opportunity to review the script to make sure that it was looking at realistic portrayals of autism in our community today. So just to give you a little snapshot on this topic today of disability and financial support, there is a continuing conversation in our communities that we need to have larger conversations about. Around the spectrum, we're seeing that on average, it takes about $60,000 a year to help support somebody who's on the autism spectrum across the lifespan. And overall, autism services cost the US around 236 to 262 billion dollars annually. This is based on statistics done by groups like the Autism Society of America. That is why, not only in terms of our own members of our local communities, we also need to advocate from a grassroots level to make sure that our government officials are providing more funding towards services across the lifespan for those with autism. And there's a big reason why we need to have that conversation, because most publicly funded services for the disabled are substantially reduced when they reach the age of 18 and are virtually eliminated beyond personal and medical care at age 21. Autism does not end at the age of 21, and we need to have larger conversations about realizing that autistic children will become autistic adults, and we need to be ready for them with supports. I can't tell you the amount of horror stories I've heard from parents being stuck on wait list in terms of getting any types of services for their child, whether they're day services, whether they are potential living facilities as well, such as housing. We often see that this is a huge barrier to entry for those who want to live meaningful lives on the autism spectrum. Being able to realize that we still have a lot to learn, especially when it comes to housing for those on the spectrum. We've done a wide range of webinars around how to go about providing grants in your local community to help assist with affordable housing for those who are on the autism spectrum, who are aging out of the school systems at either 21 or some states 22. And looking at starting those conversations on programs such as supportive living, group homes, supervised living, farmstead communities, and also assisted living facilities. Now, a great resource I'd highly recommend for those who might want to learn a little bit more about this from a financial perspective is Easter Seals. Easter Seals is an incredible nonprofit that provide a wide range of webinars. And one of their collaborations was with the financial firm Freddie Mac, which actually looks at the financial perspective of housing. Also, in addition to that, also looking at long-term supportive services and how we could go about paying for those. We'll talk a little bit today about the Achieving Better Life Expectancy Act, also known as ABLE, which allows people to have tax-free savings accounts to help start saving for their child today. So when they actually do age out of school, being able to provide them with services in adulthood. One recommendation I often give around this acronym, which is also LTSS for short, is the Housing and Residential Support Toolkit. To learn more about your state's Medicaid home policy and community-based waivers, which can be a very helpful process to providing those supports over time. In addition to that, my nonprofit organization, KFM Making a Difference, realizing that a barrier to entry, for autistic individuals who are pursuing a post-secondary education is scholarships. We still see that a lot of students, especially autistic students, have trouble with standardized testing. And two of the biggest metrics to receiving scholarship aid in most public universities is GPA and then also SAT scores. And I've noticed that a lot of the autistic mentees that I was working with really struggled in that area. So we actually started a scholarship program called the Making a Difference for Autism Scholarship Program, where I've been able to give out 150 scholarships for autistic students to pursue a post-secondary education in the past 11 years. So first things first, regardless if you are a parent or an advocate for some parent in your community, the importance of making sure you write out a will as soon as possible is of utmost importance. I actually didn't start writing out my will until I was 34 years old, so just a little over 2 years ago. And realizing the importance of this is also really, really helpful to helping with goals such as guardianship and what potentially that might look like for somebody who is autistic, who has higher support needs. The United Way, an incredible organization, actually has a hotline where if you're ever interested in learning a little bit more about how to budget effectively, you can go to by calling 211 or going to their website, 211.org, to learn a little bit more about how you can start saving for your child today and also how you can consider your finances in the future as well. One of the recommendations I always consider is embracing technology when it comes to this topic of financial planning. Being able to, first off, financial planners will be the ones who can give you the most thorough recommendations here. And I would also include that when you look at the slides today, to also make sure to discuss with a financial advisor before pursuing any of the topics that we are going to talk about today. Because there are financial apps that will help provide you on how best to budget your money in today's society. Inflation is tough, especially for many of our families. So the importance of these apps can be really, really beneficial. In addition to that, organizations like Autism Speaks also have a financial planning toolkit app, which actually looks at how to go about the process of budgeting, also looking at special needs trusts, which we'll talk a little bit today, in addition to those ABLE accounts that we discussed earlier. So there's some actionable steps that you can do today that just really makes sense for anybody, regardless if you have an autistic child or not. Exploring high yield savings accounts. Organizations like E-Trade are most likely able to ensure many of these high yield savings accounts, which could look to be around 4 to 5%, up to $250,000. In addition to that, also educating yourselves on tax deductions and specific credits, and looking to see what your state specifically does when it comes to that, such as nonprofit giving. Also consider a financial planner that focuses specifically on people with disabilities. Now, one recommendation is a group called the SunTrust Foundation, who are based in Florida, and they actually have a webinar series where they talk about special need financial planning in more depth, where you could check out their website to learn a little bit more about this process. Also, investing in insurance. Oh my God, such an important step. Talking to a planner about health, life, and potentially long-term care insurance is really, really needed, especially when the bills start to actually build up, especially if a child might not specifically be able to receive a certain therapy under that current insurance plan, such as applied behavioral analysis, which some insurance companies do, but others don't. Also, in addition to that, setting up an emergency fund. Now, this is just a great step for anybody who wants to start thinking about their finances. Our worlds were turned upside down during the COVID-19 pandemic, and understanding the importance of unforeseen circumstances happening in our community makes us realize the importance of having that nest egg of 3 to 6 months of finances to make sure that we, in case of those emergencies that are happening in our community, especially for those who have high support needs who are on the autism spectrum, realizing that in our autism community, about 50% of autistic children wander from a safe environment and then unfortunately go missing as a result. And the importance of understanding those challenges that might be associated with a child's health because of their high support needs really makes this emergency fund even more important. So websites to review for your own financial future. These are some of the leading groups who focus on the disability community and special needs financial planning. The first one I love to recommend to all of you is the Special Needs Alliance. Now, on their website, they offer resources and legal advice for special needs planning. It's a good source for finding attorneys, looking at the differences between SSI and SSDI, and who specializes in this area. In addition, the National Disability Institute, they provide a wealth of information on financial planning, tax preparation assistance. We just yesterday had tax day, so I know many of you were going through this process as well. And it also helps assess development for individuals with disabilities in terms of their assets. Then also the ABLE National Resource Center. They are just a great group if you want to learn a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the Achieving Better Life Expectancy Act. Think about it as a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA is the ability to invest with no tax challenges associated with that. Typically, it's up to $6,500 in the United States, but as part of the Achieving Better Life Expectancy Act, it could go up to $14,000, and in some states, even more than that. Also, doing a brush up on the Internal Revenue Service, being able to understand a little bit more about your specific tax benefits, credits, and also the specific grant programs that might be out there in the disability community to help you pay for your child's specific services today in our community. Excuse me. So we talked a little bit about special needs trust, but in a nutshell, it helps provide financial backstop without jeopardizing eligibility for government assistance. So there are two types of special needs trusts that you can consider. The first one is a third party, and it's usually for a disabled child. And the first party is typically how you are considering your own finances in terms of who will provide those finances for an individual once the parent decides to go about the process of guardianship, whether that is a fellow family member who will take care of your high support need child when they're gone. So there are three steps to special needs trusts. The first is finding an attorney. The Special Needs Alliance website, which we mentioned a few slides earlier, it has a database of all 50 states and how you could go about finding a financial attorney in your local area to start this conversation. The second step is selecting a trustee, someone who can monitor and manage any investments and will be responsible for filing trust tax returns in the future as well. And then finally, completing a letter of intent. And this is great for anybody who, even if you already have your finances in order, it's a great way of understanding your child better by going through this process. And the reason why it's so incredible to do a letter of intent from an early age is because it gives a great backdrop for not only if your child's in school to provide this letter of intent to educators to help them understand your child a little bit better, but also people like family members or community members who you simply just want them to learn a little bit more about your autistic child or adult. It gives a summary of a child's life to date and their future aspirations. It also looks at things like medical care, benefits, daily routines, dieting, behavior management, as many autistic children can deal with one associated related challenging behavior. In addition to housing, residential, education, and what that specifically looks like as well, especially if a child is in a public school, private school, or homeschool environment. And then also looking at things like social life, hobbies, and ultimately who that guardian may look like once the parent is no longer with us. Also, looking at supplemental security income can be a benefit to some of our families. What it looks at is it's a social security program that would provide monthly payments to adults, children who have limited or no income and have a diagnosed disability as well. You can consider looking at this process by applying online and seeing the guidelines that see if you're eligible to receive any form of SSI. You can go socialsecurity.gov or the 1-800 number to discuss with an advisor a little bit more about your options in this area. Also, for those who are just joining us, the PowerPoint slides will be available on the ATTA website. So if you miss any one of the URLs or numbers that we're going to include in today's presentation, don't worry, those will be provided to you. In addition, if you scan the QR code at the end of today's presentation, we'll also make sure you get that as well. So there are a few differences between SSI and SSDI. SSDI provides income supplements to people who are restricted in their ability to be employed because of their disability. So while SSI can be focused on more of the child challenges, SSDI is really focused on those adults with disabilities. The SSDI program pays benefits to adults who have a disability that began before they became adults. Some states, state by state versus SSI, which can vary depending where you live as well. Now, Medicaid is another topic when we talk about financial support is really important. We have a larger conversation about. Medicaid pays for a wide array of services for people with disabilities and also provides government-funded health insurance for children and adults with disabilities who have limited financial resources. Now, there are a wide range of community-based waivers to help you understand a little bit more about this process. For those in the United States who are joining us today, I also definitely recommend looking to see if your local area has a partners in policymaking course. This is a great program to take advantage of to learn how to become a local advocate. Typically it's a 3-month program which teaches you how to advocate on a grassroots local level for your child or student's specific needs. And then it also helps discuss things like the State Department of Developmental Disabilities and seeing what grant and service opportunities are currently available in your local area. One of the recommendations I often give for families is to look at grant.gov. They have a wide range of grant programs, which have been broken down. One of the areas on grant.gov they have is focused specifically on disability in our community today. So when we talk about Medicaid, we're also talking to a lot of financial providers about free Medicaid waivers. This is a federal and state program that provides health coverage to some individuals who have limited income and resources. And unlike Medicare, this program differs in each state and may have different eligibility requirements. You could follow the link at the bottom of the screen to understand a little bit more about that. On that website, you're going to find a frequently asked question list, so you can learn a little bit more about how it differs from Medicare as well. Also, and this is a resource that actually a mom of an autistic child actually recommended that I look into to help the families that I support. In some states, it's called Babies Can't Wait. But in some of the states in the US, you can look to see if they may be able to provide free early intervention services, which are typically broken down from birth to 3 and then 3 to 5, because typically those first 5 years are where we talk about when we're talking about the early intervention process. Some states are income-based as well, so there may be small tax fees that are associated to receiving specific services as well. You can find more about this at cdc.gov, simply known as the Center of Disease Control, and what you might be able to do to receive those services as well for your child. In addition to that, there are some free services that are currently available out there to help your child specifically when it comes to going to things like theme parks and amusement parks without having to pay additional fee for an aid. For example, IBCCS does certified autism centers. For example, one of their biggest highlights is Sesame Place in Pennsylvania, because one of the first Muppets to ever come to Sesame Street, Julia, who's 4 years old, came to Sesame Street several years ago and is a big highlight of Sesame Place. At their theme park, in addition to theme parks around the United States, are instituting accessibility cards to help individuals go about the process of receiving accommodations when they go to specific parks as well. In addition, another organization I highly recommend is the Community Action Agency. Nonprofits that are in most communities that focus on fighting poverty receive state and federal funding. There are things that you can do to actually look towards your local legislators to go about appropriation funding, which typically happens typically around this time. The appropriation letters are being filed for the next financial year for nonprofits to take advantage of. As a 501c3 nonprofit myself, I've also gone through the process of reaching out to my local senators about receiving appropriation funding to support programs that could directly benefit the disability community. If you want to learn a little bit more about this, you can go to the Community Action Partnership Program website, which is simply at thecommunityactionpartnership.com. So, and then we look at the ABLE Act, and this happened several years ago. It's in most states now in the United States. And what that looks like is, like we were talking about, can hold up to $14,000 a year, which is tax-free for our community to take advantage of. It's good for all quality of life costs, and then money belongs to a beneficiary after they turn 18. This could be great for any specific therapy, any type of sensory related processing challenges, sensory toys, swim lessons, the list goes on and on. So applying for these and applying for any form of financial services and support, one of the recommendations I have, especially when it comes to medical expenses, is the First Hand Foundation. They have numerous grants on their website that focus on those with high support needs, not only those with autism, but a wide range of those with disabilities. Autism Care Today also has an ongoing database of grants and resources for our community to take advantage of. My Goal Autism Grant also has some specific grant programs that are more localized than national. In addition, other recommendations I would have from more of a local basis are the CARE Foundation and VSS for more information. So finally, I never expected this to be my life. I was always the kid who was told about what his biggest challenges would be in his life. But now I like to say that autism can't define me, and I define autism. And I can only hope for each and every single one of you who have joined us for today's presentation that you can go out there and help define your child, your students, and your employees' lives in the way that they best see it every single day. And if you need any help getting started in those conversations, these are the ways that you can stay in contact with me after today's presentation. I thank you all so much for being an incredible audience. These are, again, the way that you can grab the PowerPoint slides. In addition, they will be on the ATTA website. But scanning this QR code will give you a list of free autism resources. Several of them we mentioned during today's presentation for you to take advantage of. I'm so sorry my camera is still doing that. I've never seen that before in my life as a 13-year public speaker. But in addition to that QR code, I consider testimonials the greatest compliment. If you learned something new from today's presentation, feel free to give us a little feedback via that QR code as well. Now, without further ado, I'd love to open it up to any questions that any of you have at this time. feel free to write them in the Q&A box, or as Brittany mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, you can raise your hand and we will try to take you off mute. So any questions, thoughts? And as I was just telling a K through 12 school when I was talking about bullying prevention with them, there is no such thing as a dumb question. I am an open book. Feel free to ask any question that may have came up from today's presentation.
So as you all are collecting your thoughts and hopefully typing in some questions in the chat, I did just want to point out that I put the link to our ADA website in the chat. And so that will give you, I mean, that website is full of resources. We have resources for secondary, post-secondary, employee or employers, excuse me, the community. So please feel free to browse that and look over everything that's in there. The recording and the slides from this session will be under that monthly webinar series tab. And again, those should be uploaded and shared out later this week to give us time to edit and get everything posted to the website.
And also just for reference, because I know sometimes during specifically these presentations, one of the questions that often comes up is how to go about the process of going about high yield savings accounts. What I also recommend is if you do have that emergency fund, looking into forms of CDs, where if you do have that nest egg, being able to receive even a higher yield to help a family would definitely be a recommendation of mine, in addition to looking at any form of ETFs. ETFs are a great way of having several different stocks, for example, tech stocks and other forms of stock based on the stock exchange, to be able to provide you with a higher yield. Again, looking towards a financial advisor is always the best rule of thumb when it comes to those conversations as well, though. Any other thoughts, questions? All right. Well, I appreciate you all so much. Again, ATTA, thank you so much for having me here today. It's such an honor to be able to work with you in this vicinity to continue to get the education out there to more people in our communities. And I thank all of you for joining us. And I hope these resources can be valuable for wherever you are in your current career. Again, these are the ways that you can stay in contact with me after today's presentation. We often say it takes a village. Feel free to stay in touch if we can provide any more help to help you during your specific autism journeys. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day. Talk soon.
Carrie, thank you so much. As always, it's so great having you present and share your area of expertise and information. And again, if you are not on our listserv, you can go to that ADA website and hopefully join because we do monthly webinars and always great speakers, great individuals sharing their expertise. And so be sure to check those out. And thank you all for participating today.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.